Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Emma stood frozen in the doorway of her modest suburban home, clutching the hastily scribbled note left on the kitchen counter. The words blurred through her tears, but the meaning was clear enough. Emma, I can't do this anymore. I need a fresh start with someone who matches my ambitions. Don't try to contact me. The signature at the bottom, Ryan, might as well have been a knife to her chest. It wasn't just the betrayal of her husband running off with his co-worker, Melanie, that stung. It was the sheer cowardice of how he left her, pregnant and vulnerable, to deal with everything alone. Emma sank into the worn-out couch they had picked out together years ago, cradling her growing belly. She whispered to herself, "It's just us now, baby." Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach, as if trying to shield her unborn child from the harsh reality of their new world. The following days were a blur of pain and survival. Bills piled up on the counter, each one a glaring reminder that Ryan hadn't just left emotionally. He'd drained their joint bank account, leaving Emma penniless. Friends whispered condolences but offered no solutions, while Melanie flaunted her new relationship with Ryan on social media. The betrayal was public, humiliating, and relentless. Emma knew she couldn't afford to wallow. Her child deserved better. She decided to move back into her late parents' house, a modest property in a quiet town that had been left untouched since their passing. Packing her life into a few boxes, she drove the old sedan her father had gifted her, each mile away from the life she had built with Ryan feeling like both an escape and a failure. The house was just as she remembered, quaint, with peeling paint and a lawn overtaken by weeds. Inside, dust coated every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of abandonment. But it was a roof over her head, and that was all that mattered now. As Emma began the grueling task of cleaning and organizing, she stumbled upon a heavy oak chest tucked away in the attic. Her father's name was engraved on its brass plate, Thomas Carter. Memories flooded back. Her father had always been secretive about his financial dealings, often locking himself in his study late into the night. Curiosity sparked. Emma pried the chest open. Inside, she found stacks of old journals, neatly bound financial ledgers, and envelopes marked with words like confidential and investment. Among them was a leather-bound book, its spine cracked with age. She opened it carefully, revealing pages filled with meticulous notes and calculations. One entry caught her attention immediately. Carter Tech. Initial investment $10,000. Shares purchased $1,000. Estimated value $100,000. Her heart raced. She flipped through more pages, finding updates on the stock's growth. The final entry, dated nearly 20 years ago, showed a staggering valuation of $5 million. Emma's mind reeled. Could this still be true? The next morning, after a restless night of researching Carter Tech online, Emma learned that her father's investment had grown exponentially. The company, now a global tech giant, had recently announced record-breaking profits. If the shares were still intact, they could be worth tens of millions of dollars. But questions plagued her. Why hadn't her father ever mentioned this? Why had he left everything untouched? And most importantly, were the shares still in her name? Emma set out to find answers, contacting a financial advisor recommended by an old family friend. Mr. Harris, a kind but sharp-eyed man in his 60s, met her in his office, surrounded by bookshelves lined with legal and financial tomes. "You've stumbled upon something remarkable, Mrs. Carter," he said after reviewing the documents. "It appears your father was ahead of his time. These shares are still active and have grown significantly in value." Emma's breath caught. "How much are we talking about?" Mr. Harris leaned forward, folding his hands. "Based on the current market value, over $50 million. Her heart pounded. $50 million. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Positive. Your father's foresight has left you a life-changing fortune. But there's a catch. These funds are in a trust that requires verification of your identity and direct lineage. It may take some time to unlock them." Emma left the office with a mix of awe and disbelief. The weight of her circumstances shifted. For the first time since Ryan's betrayal, she felt a spark of hope. Her baby could have the life she had only dreamed of, free from the fear and struggle that had defined her own childhood. But as Emma began the process of securing the funds, Ryan reappeared like a shadow from the past. Weeks after his departure, he called out of the blue. "Emma," his voice oozed with feigned regret, "I made a mistake. I want to come back. For you. For the baby." Emma's grip on the phone tightened. She had spent countless nights crying over the man who had abandoned her. But now, his voice only made her feel disgust. She knew the truth. Ryan had no idea about the fortune she had uncovered. He wasn't coming back for her or their child. He was coming back because his new life with Melanie wasn't the paradise he'd imagined. Emma smirked, a new resolve hardening in her chest. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm and steady, "you already made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Emma hung up the phone, her heart racing. For the first time since Ryan's betrayal, she felt in control. Her words had been firm, but the sting of his abandonment still lingered. Yet, with every step she took toward unlocking her father's trust, she knew she was moving farther from the life she had shared with him, and closer to something better. Over the following weeks, Emma worked tirelessly with Mr. Harris to finalize the legal process of claiming her inheritance. Every meeting, every form signed, felt like a step toward a future where her child would never know the struggle she had endured. But while the prospect of wealth was exciting, Emma remained cautious. She kept her discovery a secret, sharing only vague details with her closest friend, Lily, who had been her pillar of support through the storm. "You mean to tell me Ryan actually had the nerve to call you?" Lily asked, her voice dripping with disbelief as they sat together in Emma's living room. Emma chuckled bitterly. "Oh, he didn't just call. He practically begged. Said he wanted to make things right." She rolled her eyes. "He doesn't care about me or the baby. He probably realized his life with Melanie isn't as perfect as he thought." Lily snorted. "Typical. Men like Ryan always come crawling back when things fall apart. He thinks you're still the same woman he left." "But I'm not," Emma said firmly, placing a protective hand on her belly. "I've got a second chance now. Not just for me but for this baby. And I'm not letting him ruin it." As the legal hurdles were finally cleared, Emma received the confirmation she had been waiting for. The trust had been verified, and the funds were officially hers. When she saw the final amount in her account, $52.8 million, she nearly dropped the phone. It wasn't just a number. It was freedom. It was a future where she could provide for her child, build a legacy, and never have to rely on anyone again. Tears streamed down her face as she imagined the life her father must have dreamed of for her. But the money didn't change Emma. Instead of splurging on luxuries, she focused on preparing for her child's arrival. She renovated her parents' old house, transforming it into a warm, inviting home. She started a college fund for her baby, donated to local charities, and quietly invested in businesses that aligned with her values. For the first time in months, Emma felt like she was rebuilding her life, not just surviving but thriving. Meanwhile, Ryan's life was unraveling. His relationship with Melanie had soured as quickly as it began. The glossy veneer of their romance had cracked under the weight of reality. Bills were piling up, Melanie was spending recklessly, and Ryan's once promising career had hit a dead end. He was desperate, and desperation had a way of making people reckless. One day, while scrolling through social media, Ryan stumbled upon a post that stopped him cold. It was a photo of Emma, standing in front of a beautifully renovated house, her hand resting on her round belly. The caption read, "Grateful for second chances and the love that's still growing every day." Ryan's jaw clenched. The house looked nothing like the dilapidated place Emma had moved into. It was pristine, almost luxurious. And there was something else. The confidence in her smile, the glow that radiated from her. She looked happy. "Where did she get the money for this?" he muttered, jealousy flaring in his chest. Unable to let it go, Ryan decided to confront Emma. He drove to her new home, his mind spinning with accusations. As he pulled into the driveway, the sight of the immaculate property only fueled his anger. He pounded on the door, and when Emma opened it, he was stunned by how composed she looked. "Ryan," she said, her tone cold but polite. "What are you doing here?" "I came to talk," he said, trying to muster a tone of sincerity. "Emma, I know I messed up, but I want to fix things. Plus, for the baby." Emma folded her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "Fix things? You didn't just mess up, Ryan. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You left me to figure everything out on my own while you ran off with Melanie." "I made a mistake," he said, his voice rising. "I wasn't thinking straight. But I see now that I belong here, with you." Emma's lips curved into a faint smile, one that sent a chill down Ryan's spine. "You didn't come back because you realized you belong here, Ryan. You came back because your life fell apart. And let me guess, you've seen that things are going well for me, and you want a piece of it." "That's not true," he protested, but the crack in his voice betrayed him. Emma's eyes narrowed. "You think I don't know you? You're predictable, Ryan. But here's the thing, you're too late. You made your choice and I've made mine. My child will never have to depend on someone like you." Before Ryan could respond, Emma stepped back and closed the door, leaving him standing on the porch. For the first time, Ryan felt the sting of being on the outside looking in. As Emma leaned against the door, her hand once again resting on her belly, she felt a sense of peace. Ryan's return had reminded her of how far she had come. She wasn't the broken woman he had left behind. She was stronger, smarter, and ready to build a future for herself and her child, without him. But Emma's story was far from over. Ryan's curiosity would soon lead him to uncover the truth about her fortune, setting the stage for a confrontation that would change everything. Ryan couldn't shake the unease that clung to him after his failed visit to Emma's home. Something was off, something big. The house, her newfound confidence, the mysterious glow about her. It all pointed to one conclusion. Emma had come into money. But how? He knew her better than anyone, or at least he thought he did. Unable to resist, Ryan dug deeper. He scoured social media, searched property records, and even reached out to mutual acquaintances under the guise of casual curiosity. His efforts finally bore fruit when a former neighbor casually mentioned Emma's father, Thomas Carter, and his reputation for being ahead of his time with investments. That was all Ryan needed to hear. The pieces began to fall into place. A week later, Ryan found himself in the office of a financial advisor he had once worked with during better times. Armed with a forged excuse about managing inheritance disputes, he showed the advisor a copy of one of Thomas Carter's old financial documents that he had pulled from Emma's social media posts. "I need you to verify if these shares are still active," Ryan said, his voice feigning nonchalance. The advisor, a sharp-eyed woman named Vivian, raised an eyebrow but agreed to investigate. When she returned with the results, her expression was a mix of surprise and professional detachment. "These shares aren't just active," Vivian said, setting the papers on the desk. "They've grown exponentially. If you're tied to this portfolio in any way, you're looking at a fortune. Upwards of $50 million. Ryan's stomach flipped. He masked his excitement with a deep breath. "And the owner of these shares?" Vivian tapped the file. "Currently listed under Emma Carter." She studied Ryan's reaction and added, "If you're not her legal representative or spouse, you won't be able to claim anything." Ryan forced a polite smile and thanked her, his mind already racing with schemes. That evening, Ryan sat in the cramped apartment he shared with Melanie, a bottle of cheap whiskey in his hand. Melanie, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledged him. Their glamorous affair had quickly devolved into a partnership of shared misery. Melanie had her own mounting debts, and Ryan's financial situation was no better. "We need to talk," Ryan said, his voice slurred but determined. Melanie looked up, annoyed. "What now, Emma? She's sitting on a fortune, millions. And I deserve a cut of it." Melanie rolled her eyes. You left her, remember? Why would she give you a dime? Ryan leaned forward, his gaze intense. Because I'm the father of her child. And if she won't give me what I'm owed, I'll take it. Melanie's lips twisted into a bitter smile. Good luck with that. But Ryan wasn't joking. He hatched a plan to confront Emma again, this time armed with the knowledge of her wealth. He convinced himself that if he pushed the right buttons, he could guilt her into sharing her newfound fortune. After all, he was the father of her baby. Surely that counted for something. Emma was sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, when Ryan's car pulled into her driveway. Her peaceful evening shattered the moment she saw him step out, his posture reeking of self-importance. What do you want now, Ryan? She asked, her voice calm but firm. Ryan smirked, holding up his hands as if in surrender. Relax, Emma. I just want to talk. She crossed her arms. About what? Oh, you know, he said, stepping closer. About how you went from struggling to thriving in a matter of months. Don't you think I deserve to know how that happened? Emma's jaw tightened. She had been expecting this, but the audacity still took her breath away. You don't deserve anything from me, Ryan. His smile faltered, replaced by a sneer. I'm the father of your child, Emma. That means something. And don't pretend like you haven't been sitting on a goldmine thanks to your dad's little investment. Emma's stomach turned. He knew. Of course he knew. You did your homework, she said, her tone icy. Congratulations. But knowing about the money doesn't entitle you to it. Ryan stepped closer, his voice low and venomous. You owe me, Emma. You wouldn't even know about that money if I hadn't left. Think about it. My leaving forced you to dig into your past. Without me, you'd still be living in mediocrity. Emma stared at him, disbelief mixing with fury. You honestly think you deserve credit for abandoning me? For leaving me pregnant and penniless? Let me make one thing clear, Ryan. You didn't force me to succeed. I succeeded despite you. Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but Emma cut him off. And as for the money, she said, her voice rising, it's mine. Every penny. My father left it for me and my child. Not for you, and definitely not for whatever mess you've made of your life. Ryan's face darkened. You're going to regret this, Emma. No, Ryan, she said, stepping back into the house. The only thing I regret is wasting years of my life with you. She closed the door, locking it behind her. The confrontation didn't end there. Ryan, consumed by bitterness, attempted to take legal action against Emma, claiming a share of the trust as the father of her unborn child. But Emma, prepared for his desperation, hired a team of top lawyers and fought back with everything she had. During the court proceedings, Emma's legal team presented damning evidence of Ryan's abandonment, financial neglect, and history of manipulative behavior. The judge ruled in Emma's favor, granting her full custody of the child and dismissing Ryan's claims to the trust. The final blow came when Emma stood outside the courthouse, her newborn son cradled in her arms. Reporters swarmed her, eager for a statement. She looked directly into the cameras and spoke with quiet strength. This money isn't about me. It's about my son's future and the legacy my father left for us. No one, not even his father, will take that away. The story made headlines, painting Emma as a resilient mother who had overcome betrayal to secure a brighter future. Ryan, meanwhile, became a cautionary tale, a man who gambled everything on selfish desires and lost it all. In the months that followed, Emma focused on building a life of security and love for her son. She used part of her fortune to create a foundation in her father's name, supporting single mothers and children in need. Her past no longer defined her. She had risen above it, stronger and more determined than ever. And as she rocked her baby to sleep one evening, Emma whispered, "We're going to be okay. Better than okay." Her son cooed softly in response, a symbol of the future she had fought so hard to protect. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.